Good morning. Reading from the fourth canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 28, Karana becomes a woman in the next life. Verse number 24. Word by word, these translations first. Purim, the city. Vayaha, having given up. Bhagavatam, going out. Bhagavatam, arrested. Bhagavatam, serpent. Yatha, when. Tam, him. Eva, certainly. Anu, after. Puri, the city. Vishna, scattered. Apikim, matter. Rita, turned into. Purim, Vihaya, Bhagavatam. Purim, Vihaya, Bhagavatam. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Governor Raja and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Report times in 1 days. When the living entity is arrested, all his followers, they leave a light bear, the senses and the sense objects, immediately leave the lump of matter, body. When the living entity and his companion leave, the body no longer works, but turns into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of that city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. When we say, "Dust thou art," and "unto dust thou shalt return," we refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave and the city ceases to exist. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is a physical matter within the body. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from eternal transmigration. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows and asses. The cow is a very innocent animal, and the ass is a beast of burden. One who labors under bodily conception simply works like an ass, does not know his self-interest. It is therefore said, Yasat Mamudidaramitri Jatuke, Swari Kalati Dishu Bama Nijadi, Yat Tirtali Sale Nam Sanchi, Saneshu Ineshu Sale Gokara. A human being who identifies this body made of 3 elements with himself, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land earth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is considered to be like an ass or a cow. Bhagavatam 10:8-13. Human civilization, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is simply a civilization of goat animals. Sometimes a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain and the heart of a dead man. So, repeat, the serpent who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yamuna Raja was out of the city. Began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You, our actual Lord Krishna, has returned among us. So in following this incredible narration, following this incredible narration, each one of us can, to some degree or to a large extent, identify with the unfortunate victim, Karanjan. Srila Prabhupada's purports are loyal to Vaishnava tradition and scriptural commentary. And one of Srila Prabhupada's unique, unprecedented accomplishments was that he translated the Srimad Bhagavatam following the orders of the spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to print books. So to print books, you have to have some books to print. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada took this amazing journey into translating Srimad Bhagavatam as his first effort. Srila Prabhupada at various times commented that he also wanted his disciples to write and publish books. That one time when we were in Mayapur visiting the Chaitanya Math, he commented that he noticed the shelf of the Math was only featuring the books of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So he commented that the preaching was dead because the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, they were not writing, they were not producing literature, indicating that they were not gaining realizations. So it is wonderful to know that Srila Prabhupada's disciples have taken this instruction to heart, and there are many wonderful volumes of literature based on their wonderful realizations that are coming from the purports and teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada left off where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He picked up where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had left off. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had given a general instruction that all of his disciples should go and preach, and specifically go and preach in the English language, meaning go abroad. And he also prepared some of his disciples for that particular duty. And in preparing them to depart, to go to the West, he waited until there was an English book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, written by Professor Sanyal, who was his initiated disciple known as Narayan, and given the honorific Bhakti Sudhakara. He often worked very closely with his personality. So when this book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, was completed, then he handed it over to his disciples, and now he may go and preach in the West. Because what is preaching if you're just simply speaking, if you don't have something to give, something to back you up, something to put into their hands? He used to admonish us that it's okay, you can talk, you can stand on any street corner and on any street corner and preach. But unless you give them something, give them a book, they will forget in 5 or 10 minutes. So Prabhupada took this order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta very seriously. He also did not depart to America until he had completed the first volume in 3 parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that was basically the only possession, other than a few cloth and some little bag of dal and, I think he had some potatoes. His main possession was a trunk of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When we go traveling, when we go to Mataji, we always have to I always have at least one big suitcase full of life and life. And I have another full of books, but now we have these wonderful things, like I have this iPad, and all the books are on there, so there's one little tiny thing, you can just have all the Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada had the authentic hard copy versions in one trunk. morning program. So that Shri Krishna Bhagavan so that in practically every temple around the world, there is every morning a Srimad Bhagavatam class, a discourse on the topics of Lord Krishna's pastimes and activities. His success, his huge success, wasn't just a little success. Srila Prabhupada had a huge success after the age of 69. About maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Time magazine had an article published that 50 of the most prominent persons in the world who attained success after the age of 50. And number 5 on the list was Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. So he, in less than 12 years, he was founding an international organization, an international spiritual organization. He was organizing it, developing it. You know, it's an incredible movement. Even though we're international, on one level, it sounds very grand, but on another level, we're still actually relatively small. You know, it's like sometimes I'm laughing because I travel a lot, and everywhere I go, inevitably I'm going to see somebody I know from my country or the place I just was. You know, but our family circle is still relatively small, even though we're expanding like anything, which tells us that we still have a little work to do for Srila Prabhupada. And he was able to establish the foundations of this movement, and in doing so, he never accepted any praise on his own behalf. He would reflect that praise and say, I'm just serving the previous acharyas. I'm just following the instructions of my spiritual master. He wanted to be recognized for his unadulterated allegiance to the previous acharyas. And he wanted to be recognized standing firm in that line of disciplined succession. He would say, if I have done anything wonderful, it is that I have faithfully followed the instructions of my spiritual master, and I have not changed anything. At another time he said, I don't claim to be a pure devotee, or even perfect, and my only qualification is that I am trying to follow the instructions of the perfect. This was Srila Prabhupada's perfection and humility. So there are many false saints, people who are purported to be saints. Sometimes we see their big banners with their smiling faces along the road here and in other places. So they allow their followers or their disciples to advertise them as saints. You know, they kind of pump them up. But it's understood by the Vaishnavacharyas, the Orthodox Vaishnavacharyas, that a great person or a saint can only be understood by one who is equal to them themselves. So in other words, if someone, like you have your little followers and they're, you're a saint, it's very nice, it's very flattering. But coming from those who are beneath you, who are not spiritually realized, it really has not value. It's just like a kid will say, my dad is the best dad, my dad's better than all the other dads. You know, for that kid it's a fact, but it may not be a reality outside their home. So Srila Prabhupada was established by not only his disciples, we are naturally going to see him in a very elevated manner, but by other elevated Vaishnavas, by elevated persons who could understand that Srila Prabhupada came here not on his own accord, but that he was sent by Lord Krishna to carry on the Sankirtan movement. And this lady is known as Shaktavesh Avatar, one who is specifically empowered by the Supreme Lord to carry out specific activities. specifically performance. So Srila Prabhupada's purports, therefore, are imbibed with the previous acharyas that many times will quote Sridhar Swami or Vishwanath Chakravarti, Narottam Das. He will elaborate on their commentaries. And he will give some of his realization based upon these same commentaries. But he doesn't ever say, well, I think, or it is my opinion that. Everything is coming directly when he should accept. And he wanted his authority to be accepted according to how faithfully he lived up to the standard. So then, in establishing ISKCON, we became part of the Gaudiya school, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. There was founded by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now over 5 centuries ago. And we are officially connected with the 13th century Vaishnava school of Malati and with the even older Sri Vaishnavas founded by Acharya. So it's a very authentic line. We're very authentically situated. It's not something that Srila Prabhupada just suddenly came to America and created something, but he adhered very strictly to the authority of the previous acharyas. Now, it was to be noted that founders of various Vaishnava schools or sects have written many commentaries on Vyasadeva Vedanta Sutra. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he proposed that the ancient Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, in itself was commentary, that there was no need for further commentary. So as such, he was not encouraging his followers to write further commentary, but he thought there was no need for commentary or sub-commentaries. And this was supported by a verse from the Guru Purana. It said, this is the quote from the Guru Purana. This Purana is perfectly complete. It is the support of the Vedanta Sutra, and it establishes the meaning of the Mahabharata. It is a commentary on Gayatri. It completes the message of the Vedas. It is the Shambhaveda among the Puranas, and it is directly spoken by an incarnation of God, Vedas. So this work, consisting of 12 cantos, hundreds of chapters, and 18,000 verses, is called Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srila Prabhupada was himself firmly convinced of the relevance of Srimad Bhagavatam for all men, for all times. And it is like a perennial, eternal spiritual science of God consciousness. And he felt that he took his responsibility very seriously to simply translate without distortion. And in doing so, remaining true to the instructions of the previous acharyas. So sometimes it is essential that the lofty ideas and images in the Srimad Bhagavatam is seen that there's very lofty images, very esoteric teachings and ideas. And Srila Prabhupada attempted to convey this in his purports in an understandable way so that the readers, the modern readers, could comprehend and assimilate the instructions. And in doing this, without changing or adulterating anything. The original texts are messages from a different time, an ancient time, and a foreign time for us. And Srila Prabhupada felt an urgency to deliver these messages, and that urgency was imbibed into his early disciples, and we each felt such an urgency that we have to assist our spiritual master. On my very first morning class in 1967, this was the day after his arrival in San Francisco in January, he gave the first Srimad Bhagavatam class. And then he ended it by telling us, who had just met him the day before, to go out and preach, to give this message to others. And every day he would say that. How are we going to do this? You know, it was such an amazing, we were hearing such amazing things things that we had never heard of or considered. Or we were hearing answers to questions that we'd never been able to have answered before. And we were feeling just overwhelmed by this limited knowledge that was coming to us. But we had no capacity to transmit this knowledge to others. At least we didn't think we did. Srila Prabhupada said, you simply listen to what I speak, and then you repeat. Don't change anything. And as you gain realization, then you can say something. So the two instructions are there. First, simply repeat what you've heard from me, don't change anything. And as you gain personal realization, then you can speak. So we had this urgency, and it was put in at a very early time, in the beginning. And what is this urgency? Is that the whole world is going to hell, and we are going to hell with it for lack of spiritual knowledge, lack of spiritual education. And as such, he was always concerned with how to make the Bhagavatam's instructions comprehensible to the average contemporary public. He felt that if even only a few people had the message, only a few people, then he felt the endeavor would be successful. Although he wanted the whole world to benefit, he was satisfied if just someone would take it. Someone would take it to him. Prior to his 1965 departure to the USA with the first 3 volumes, one could question, why did he choose this Bhagavatam? It's such an esoteric, otherworldly work. It's not well known. Even in India, it isn't that. Even the general public is not always aware of Bhagavatam. Of course, by Prabhupada's mercy, now they are very much aware on a greater scale. But at that time, it was more secular. So why didn't he go with something else that was maybe easier, more easily recognizable? Srila Prabhupada didn't think like that. He was always thinking on a grander scale for the benefit of humanity. And he wasn't concerned that there wasn't an audience for Srimad Bhagavatam. He created his own audience, his own readership, through transcendental marketing. He got these books printed. Now I have the books. What to do with them? They're sitting in a warehouse collecting dust. Go out, distribute these books. And legions and legions of young men and women went out there on the street, as we would say, we hit the pavement. We went out with his books and began, just like Chaitanya told Nityananda and Haridas, everyone you see, my dear sir, please take the holy name. So we were also anyone, take this book, take this book. And in this way, there was a transcendental flood of spiritual knowledge. Even if people couldn't comprehend it, Prabhupada said, that's okay, simply by looking at it, simply by touching it, they'll benefit. And we've heard of people that have picked up the book, they brought it home, barely looked at it, put it on the shelf in their house, and 20 or 25 or even 30 years later, they came back to that same book, took it off the shelf, opened it up, and began to read it. And then became connected with this fund, which Srila Prabhupada's devotees. It took some time. Prabhupada said a valuable nut takes a long time to fructify. So certain things don't happen overnight, although they may appear to for some of us. So in a few years, he had almost 5,000 disciples who were serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam. And millions more worldwide have brought Srimad Bhagavatam into their homes in various languages, now over 123 languages. Last year, an amazing accomplishment was that the Chinese government, who controls all literature, nothing can be, just like we say, we don't say, the Bhagavad Gita says, not a blade of grass moves without Krishna's sanction. So in China, not a book is printed without the sanction of the government. And the government sanctioned and has themselves arranged for the printing of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is being presented, of course, not as a religious text. Prabhupada said we're not a religious text. It's the scientific knowledge, so it's being presented on a cultural basis. But this is Srimad Bhagavatam. And they are so impressed. And they've told Tanta, who's the main translator, the driving force for her husband behind this, that anything she translates, they will publish it. This is the Chinese government. Just see the power of Srila Prabhupada and his faith in this Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a sign that Srila Prabhupada is a great author, that he created an audience where there was none. He was never concerned with the court of public opinion. Just like when he created, when he first established ISKCON, the people said, who were helping him, said, well, Krishna consciousness, why did you say God consciousness? People that don't know Krishna. Krishna is God, and he insisted on Krishna consciousness. He wasn't concerned about the court of public opinion, which is coming from a lower realm. His duty, his mission, and therefore our mission, is to educate the public, to uplift them, to give them this transcendental knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada considered Srimad Bhagavatam along with the Bhagavad Gita as a substantial foundation of this time. But it was Srimad Bhagavatam that was his opus magnum. It means his great work, a great literary masterpiece. And his commentaries and translations were based largely on the previous acharyas. He said, he explained one time that when somebody was saying, you're writing, somebody would have said, I am not writing, it's not me. That I'm only writing what Krishna wants to write. And he was saying this in a very natural way, because it's just a fact. And his commentaries are like illuminations, because if we just took the translation, read the translation, we'd still be bewildered. We might even be more bewildered. But his purports, his commentaries are like an illumination on the deep words of the Bhagavatam. And then he introduced detailed illustrations, which he called pictures to the spiritual world, not to give us a diversion, but to give us deeper insight into the purports and meanings in the books. Srila Prabhupada always insisted on literal understanding of the Bhagavatam, particularly in terms of Krishna's pastimes. But there are notable exceptions to this, and the narrations that we're currently studying, this Ranjan in his life story, this is one of those exceptions, that it is a parable. It is like an allegory, whereby we can learn something from this example. And of course, the whole thing came about because Narada Muni came upon this king who was in a difficult situation, and because of his attachment to his enjoying position and sense gratification, etc. And he knew if he told this king, look, here's what you're doing wrong, you're doing this, you're doing that. Nobody likes to be told, hey, you're wrong, you're wrong. Kind of, even if it's true, you just don't take it so, you don't really react so easily. So using his very specific and creative intelligence, Narada Muni was speaking about another person, because obviously we don't like to hear about somebody else, nature and living entity. It's a little transcendental gossip going on, about this other guy, which was really the king himself. So, Narada Muni is a very itinerant preacher, and he's seen throughout the pages of Bhagavatam. Sometimes you can say stirring the pot to get things going a little faster, or in this case, finding this wonderful instruction. So, Gopi Pranadana, he described Puranjan as the equivalent of everyman. So in the European, atypical European dramas and tragedies and plays, they would have an everyman, that everyone in the audience, the main character, that everybody in the audience could identify with. So in this case, everyman Puranjan, he is represented by the embodied soul who's suffering from his misidentification with the temporary material material nature. And for years he's trying to enjoy, and he's happy, and he has capacity to make wonderful arrangements because he's king, he's very wealthy. But even a pauper is proud of his penny, right? So even a poorest person, to speak of everybody in between, will try to find some way to be comfortable. You know, we see this even in the animal kingdom. There was, the other day on Prikrama, I saw one, it was just some pile of dirt and rubbish, and one dog had dug out a little hole. And he was happily sleeping in his little hole that he made in the dirt and rubbish. You know, he was oozing away. And we do the same thing. We're living in the material world where everything is temporary. It may look pretty good to us, you know, materially speaking. I mean, certainly I prefer a deep, clean environment than some filthy, dirty environment. But ultimately, it's temporary. The clean environment and the dirty environment. You know, we wander around Vrindavan and we see so many contrasting situations, and we're trying to find one that looks comfortable. You know, this is the nature of the body and soul. We're trying to find some comfortable situation. For how long is it going to last? Well, as long as we can just squeeze out a little breath out of this deteriorating body. So this is what Ranjan is representing, this illusion of the entity. The Radharani is showing how this illusion was smashed finally when at the time of death. And leading up to the time of death, one realizes sometimes, you know, it's actually a little fortunate if you know beforehand something's happening so you can prepare yourself, but you don't always get that opportunity. A few days ago, my brother, he had just returned to the Association of Devotees. He'd been living a little bit away for some time, and he relocated to Alachua. He'd been there about a month, and all of a sudden, bang, heart attack, he's gone. So, no time to prepare. Another devotee just a few days prior, Siddhavidya Prabhu. If any of you have ever been to Miami Temple, you'll know Siddhavidya. Siddhavidya gave his life to Prabhupada's movement in terms of distribution and Harinam Sankirtan. And he never missed a day of Mangal Arati. Even at the last moment, when he was in the hospital, hooked up on some life supports that they eventually removed, devotees would come and chant particularly one devotee, or a different chant the entire morning program and read Bhagavatam. The Siddhavidya, although he couldn't even properly communicate, was fully aware and expressing his appreciation. One time, the temple board, for whatever reason, decided he had committed some kind of aparadh, whatever it was. It wasn't very serious, but they decided to ban him from the temple. Now, in this situation, banning him from the temple meant banning the only person who came to Mangal Arati besides the majority of the deities. He would come every single morning, and I know this because I'm their DBC, so I was on a visit. So I was there at the temple standing alone. There was Siddhavidya outside the window, attending Mangal Arati. Right into the deities, Siddhavidya was outside the window, attending Mangal Arati, the temple of greeting, attending groups that was outside the window looking in. And then I realized, because I couldn't understand, how did he do this? And then I realized this was Krishna's arrangement just to show the character, the wonderful, qualified character of Siddhavidya. That, never mind, I can't go in, it doesn't matter, I'll be there. And every day, as long as he could walk, practically crawl, it was fully out in Harinam Sankirtan. If nobody went with him, he took his pair of kartals and he chanted and distributed some of Prabhupada's books. So it was, and he actually came from a very wealthy family. It wasn't like he didn't have anywhere else to go or couldn't have had another life. He surrendered to Sri Prabhupada, and he surrendered to the Harinam Sankirtan distribution, and he lived his life in this way. So then, last Monday, surrounded by devotees, who were chanting loudly at 4:49 in the afternoon. This took his final departure. So he had a little preparation time. He could prepare, but not everybody gets a little opportunity. So Narada Muni was trying to give this king a little opportunity to prepare himself for the eventual reality, which is we're all going to leave this temporary encasement. We were hearing in some of the classes. About some of the different aspects. One of the classes was mentioned, Bhakti Sundar Maharaj was the lady asked, you were thinking of the time of death, of course, and you can make this next time in body. So then here was Paranjan being warned about to let you attach to women, your wonderful wife, and you're going to go in your next life, and as you see in the next verse, what? There he was, a woman. But in his class, he was mentioning how Prabhupada was speaking, and he said, so if you're, as you were thinking of the time of your death, you will become in your next life. So if you're thinking of a dog, you can become a dog in your next life. Somebody after the class, they raised their hand and said, well, I don't think it's such a bad thing to become a dog. Prabhupada said, so you have my blessings. But really, would we want to do that? I mean, we're a spirit soul, dog is spirit soul. The dog has to go through. And we're also going through it, but just on another dimension. Unless we actually separate ourselves from the animal mentality and realize the full potential, which is to understand ourselves as a spiritual spark, servant of the Supreme Lord. And this is a message that is trying to be imparted to Paranjan. And now he's left his body, and all of his followers, the air, the light air, the senses, and the sense objects, they are following. Because what's the use of this body when there's no light air, when the soul is departed? As beautiful as the body is, nobody wants to embrace you when you're dead. It's fit for the dogs, for the vultures. So, then Prabhupada comments, it is a foolish person who engages in improving the conditions of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. So I was considering that this is the leading sentence in the second chapter, what do you call paragraph. So the foolish person engages in improving the conditions of a city without caring for the citizens or the inhabitants. So in the same way, as caretakers of Srila Prabhupada's movement, we have to care not only for our buildings, but for those devotees, for those persons who come into the buildings. In the past, we've been a little remiss in this way. Now devotees are understanding how valuable devotees are. Just like the light air is valuable, it keeps the body moving. And in the same way, our temples are alive because of the presence of the devotees who come to worship Shri Radha. So, similarly, Prabhupada says, when the entity is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge, simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is the principal factor within the body. So this is the message we're meant to be taking deeply and giving out to others. The message of Bhagavatam. So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we received this message, and now we also take further mercy from Srila Prabhupada by continuing to assist him in disseminating the message. The other day, one of the speakers was mentioning about finishing things up in this life. And then he was indicating that the reason we're here now is because I forget the exact word he used, but basically we didn't finish things up in our previous life. And actually that's a fact. Srila Prabhupada said all of us previously were associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we didn't finish our business. So I wanted to end with a quote from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. I sent a letter he wrote. And he said, when the independent living entities commit offenses at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, they degrade themselves. You should all constantly chant the holy names of Krishna, study the devotional literatures without any offenses, let many people become happy just by seeing our lifestyle. Just because a devotee has fallen into the hands of Maya does not mean we will give up our service to Lord Hari. Sometimes it will, like point to another fallen person, well, just see, well, why not me? But no, just because a devotee has fallen into the hands of Maya does not mean we will give up our service to Lord Hari. In some future lifetime, that fallen devotee will achieve benefit, though there may not be any hope for him in this life. Such devotees may even leave us in a cruel manner. Do not become afraid by seeing this type of misfortune. Foolish people will criticize us for all these fall downs. Nonetheless, you should fearlessly chant the holy names of Hari and thereby pass the test of Maya. Even if you lack faith, go on constantly chanting the holy names with utmost care. This is a message I should have about to Saraswati, because sometimes we do feel a little, maybe we feel a little like discouraged or not so enthusiastic, and have some doubts, our faith is not maybe as strong as it could be. But therefore, he says, even if you lack faith, go on constantly chanting the holy names of the utmost care. Thank you very much. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam. It's 9 o'clock again, so there's a quick question. Otherwise, I'm leaving today, so please bless me that I can do some service when I get back to my country, USA. Hare Krishna.